Hey, my name is Lizzie Smiley, and I absolutely love helping people connect with their calling and all the tools they need to kick roadblocks and excuses right out the door so they can cultivate the life they dream about. If you want to launch, grow, pivot, or scale your Etsy shop, or you've always wanted to develop the mindset and skills to run your own business, then I'm your girl. I've had that entrepreneurial spirit going strong since my very first lemonade stand, and now I'm a work-at-home mama with multiple online companies and a full-time Etsy shop, all while being present with my kids for the everyday chaos and most important milestones. On this podcast, we'll talk about all things business, mindset, Etsy, creativity, dazzling our customers, and so much more. There's plenty of room at this table for you, so scooch on in and let's go. I'm holding nothing back. Welcome to How to Sell Your Stuff on Etsy. I'm so glad you're here. Hey, my friends, welcome back to the show this week. I'm so glad to be here with you. And I know I'm about to make many of you very, very happy. Today on the podcast, I am bringing you another print-on-demand expert. I know how much we love a good print-on-demand discussion. It's literally one of y'all's favorite types of episodes. I found Heather of HeatherStudio on TikTok and on YouTube, and she's just got a ton of great print-on-demand content. You're going to adore her. So here's what's amazing. Heather is a top 1% Etsy and print-on-demand seller. She's a multiple six-figure Etsy store owner. She went from 0 sales to $250,000 in revenue in 2021. Okay, guys, this is not an established shop that's been around forever. She just did it recently since the pandemic began. She's been featured on Printify Success Stories, Upflip, and the Side Hustle podcast. And she's an Etsy and print-on-demand YouTube and TikTok coach that has taught multiple students to earn 5 figures and beyond with Etsy and print-on-demand. So I know we're all geeking out. We all love to dig into this subject. Please help me welcome Heather to the podcast. Hey, Heather. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh. I'm super excited because all of my listeners, many of them, I shouldn't say all because I'm a handmade seller person, but everyone is so obsessed with print on demand. And every time we have a print on demand expert, they totally geek out. And I know they are going to be completely obsessed with you because your results are amazing. Your product, what you provide is amazing. Your insight is amazing. Your YouTube is amazing. So let me just, be a geek and fangirl for a second. But no, I am so thrilled to have you. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So let's start, since I'm guessing some folks have actually come across you before because your YouTube channel is so helpful, so phenomenal, but there's probably plenty of people here who haven't before. So let's start with tell us your story, even before Etsy, what's your professional background? What kind of led you into entrepreneurship in Etsy?
Yeah, so I worked in healthcare prior to ever starting an Etsy store, and I worked in MRI. So I was an MRI technologist at my local hospital in up until 2021. Actually up until this year. So I began in 2020, my Etsy and print-on-demand business. I found a couple of YouTube videos online one night, and I just remember, actually, I am so sorry. I have to kind of go back in my story because in 2020, the whole reason why I was even looking online at YouTube videos was because I got cut hours at my job when the pandemic first happened.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
In the medical field. That's crazy. Okay.
Yeah. And I guess that's one of the most surprising bits of my story when I tell it, is because usually when you think of the pandemic and the hospital, it's kind of like, okay, no one got cut from the hospital, right? And surprisingly, a lot of staffing for orthopedic surgeries and anything that supported orthopedic surgeries, such as imaging with MRI and CT, those were cut first. And that was one thing that kind of shocked us all in healthcare. So from, I believe it was April to June time, we were all cut hours in half. I just purchased my first home at the same time.
Oh my God.
So yeah. And so that all happened. And I was just like, I have to find a side income. I can't wait. And I can't expect my job to give me hours back because a lot of my coworkers were laid off, and we were talking about, oh, someone else may have to be laid off. And I was newer to MRI. I'd been working about 2 years at this point, and I was one of the newer people in. So, and I was just grateful, I had a job because I know a lot of people were cut hours at this time. I was grateful that in my department, we were all kind of just cutting down our hours so we could all make some type of income. It was kind of a joint group effort to, have everyone's hours. So we all had at least hours rather than cutting off people completely. So during that time, I realized, okay, I have to find a side hustle. I have to find some type of side income that's going to, be my backup just in case this were to ever happen again. So I found a few YouTube videos about print on demand. And at first I thought it was just creating t-shirts. I was like, okay, well, I could maybe invest in, my own t-shirt business and buy, bulk order t-shirts and print and press them myself. And then I saw that there on the YouTube videos I was watching, it was just like, oh no, you just create the design on Canva, you upload it to your print on demand provider's website. And then if a customer on Etsy finds your item and they purchase it, then the print on demand company will print, pack, and ship the item. And I just remember thinking, wow, that's so awesome that's, a business model. You don't have to pay at all. You don't have to hire out your own print company and pay up front anything. So I decided to start in 2020, and I started with neck gaiters and selling them as use for face masks,
Oh
which,
my gosh.
yeah, looking back now, that's, I know a lot of most states don't accept neck gaiters as face masks and, protection. So that, and at the same time, when that happened and neck gaiters really weren't accepted, and also Etsy was flagging a lot of accounts that had anything to do with the pandemic in the titles, tags, SEO. So I realized, okay, I have to kind of pivot, do something else. So I started doing t-shirts, but at that time, the print on demand providers were so backed up in their production times that it was taking 2 to 4 weeks to ship out items to customers. And I remember, as a new Etsy store, you need the highest reviews possible when you start. So it just hit me, maybe this isn't my time. So I completely closed my store on Etsy. And so in 2020, I actually failed my first attempt. And I
Oh
know,
my gosh, I didn't know that.
yeah. So, but I did get just a few sales here or there on the neck gaiters, but because of the production times, those customers got them in 4 weeks, and they didn't even write a review or anything. And I wrote, messages to them, and I said, I'm so sorry about this. Just so you know, the store is closing, but we are still going to get the neck gaiters to you. They're on their way. Here's the tracking information. And so after that, in 2021, I decided, hey, I it was so weird because prior to January of 2021, because I closed my store in, I believe it was June or July of 2020. So for the next like 6 months ish about, I remember just feeling very sad when I got my hours back at work. And I was sitting there, and even on my drives home from work, I was like, why am I so sad? I feel defeated. And it hit me that I got a taste of print on demand and the world of Etsy, and I knew I had to get back into it. So in December, I made that mental step to say, hey, I'm going to get back into this come January. So when January 2021 hit, I reopened my store. I posted over 100 different listings with the print on demand and Etsy business. And I think I got my first sale after 4 or 5 weeks. And then the next month I had a few hundred in sales. And then
Wow.
by the end of 2021, I had $250,000 in revenue on my Etsy and print on demand store. And that was a take home gross profit of 6 figures. And I had never seen 6 figures in any of my careers. So,
I love that.
yeah.
Okay, I have to know though, because everyone always asks this, and you are a success story. So did you put your shop on vacation mode and then reopen it, or did you start over with a brand new shop?
I put it on vacation mode and then I reopened it.
Yeah,
So,
it
yep.
works.
Yeah,
It
it
works.
does. Yep. Yeah.
I also just love because I think a lot of people, I don't know if you tell me if you hear this from coaching clients, they'll be like, "Well, only the old established shops sell anything, especially in print on demand." They'll be like, "The new shops don't sell anything." And you're an example of someone who knew, you're in the last 2 years, you're definitely in the amount of time when Etsy instituted all of the bots that were that are shutting people down, and kind of being more
Mhm.
strict on the shops. So, yay for that too. Do you hear that a lot?
I do. And I always kind of come back with the testimonials I've had through my own coaching clients and students I've seen, even people who message on YouTube, or I get emails almost every day now, which is really cool that people say, I just started my store a month ago and I have, 5 sales and this really does work. I can't believe it actually, is still working in 2022. So,
Totally.
yeah.
Well, okay, let's hone in then because that I didn't appreciate that you started in 2020. And
I
also, I
know.
have to say, I have to interject this because there was were you did you get the email from Etsy at some point in 2020? I can't, and I part of the problem is I can't remember when it was. And it was actually asking sellers to start selling masks, to make and sell masks, face coverings.
Wow.
Do you remember that, or was that kind of when you maybe had turned it off? It must have
I
been actually, maybe.
Yeah, I think it might have been when I turned it off.
So
So,
like in those first few months when none of us knew what we were doing, I think Etsy was like, "Oh my gosh, skirt!" Like put the
yeah,
brakes on anything pandemic related. We don't want to get sued. And then
yep,
after that, we were all getting emails. They were like, "Can you please sell masks? Can you please sell masks?" So okay, that's just super
wow,
interesting. You'd actually put a pause on it. I do wonder how the Gators would have done. I think
yeah,
that was really clever. I was wondering if that was going to be what really took you off because what a perfect search term to be coming in with at a time when people were like desperate for face covering. So it's so interesting how that all transpired.
yep, yeah.
Okay, but yeah, I would love to kind of like zone in on the journey from the early days. Like you said, it was 5 weeks before you even got a sale. The early days where things were you were trying to figure it out. And I'm saying early days of 2021 when you reopened. And I know you
Mhm.
uploaded all of those listings, which is so cool. But talk about the journey from the very beginning of just starting to get a trickle of sales to getting to the incredible stats of 15K a month with a print on demand product.
Yeah. So I guess in January when I first began, I was kind of trying to ride the waves of what was seasonally working for other people.
Okay.
So, and I don't know, I've heard a lot of my previous clients and students kind of fall into that trap. I'd like to say that it's kind of like the positivity shirts and the workout niche and the design for Easter, since Easter's this month, and things like that, which can work for some people. But I was trying to do that, and I realized quite quickly that I was going into very broad niches. and
Okay.
and I know this is a controversy on if it's niche or niche, so I do
I think it's
apologize.
both. I don't think there's a right or wrong on that at all.
Yeah, I always feel very. I that's like the number one comment I get on TikTok is is
They're like, it's niche, not niche, or it's
yeah, yeah,
oh my gosh, woof.
yeah.
I
So
say
now,
niche. What do you say?
yeah, I say niche, and I've made a few YouTube videos about this. Just at the beginning of a video where I say niche, and I've looked on Google, and it's every time I do the voice, it does the voice memo of it. It says either way, so it's
Yes, because in architecture, when you're talking architecturally, it was always niche. When they would talk about in the cathedrals, the niche. So fascinating.
yeah,
I think it's fine. I think like it's okay. People are so picky. It's fine. Okay,
yeah.
good. You and I agree on niche then, and we've just established that as the rule right here.
Yeah, exactly. So after I kind of realized I was going into such broad audiences,
Yeah.
I really started studying what other big stores were doing. I started finding other print on demand Etsy stores that were selling the same things as me, so t-shirts and sweatshirts. I really just started looking at their stores, and I know this is kind of probably not the best thing to do, but every time I found a store that was doing well, I'd look for their items that said add 20 to cart or added 20 to cart, this
Yes.
is a popular item, bestsellers.
Literally what I
And
teach. Yes.
yeah, I would just go in, I would take a pen and a notebook, and I would just write down every single thing that I saw 20 plus added to cart. And over time, that gave me a really great picture of what really
Yes.
sold and what people liked, the trends. And, I could say the trends that were 2 years ago, but it's so different now. So that's kind of what I did. And I found narrow niches through that. I found maybe higher demand, but broad niches to go into, but lower competition, if that makes any sense. I guess that maybe I kind of contradicted when I said narrow,
No,
but
no, that makes sense. Higher demand. Lots of people are looking for it. Not a
yeah,
ton of sellers are providing it. So you said it
yeah.
perfectly.
Yeah, so and that's kind of what I was going for, to kind of pull me up in the algorithm. So I would use like those broad niche terms in my SEO, but then I would also use the narrow niche. So it would pull me
Yes.
up in the broad and then also in the narrow, targeting the specific customer. So an example of that would be, instead of teacher t-shirt, I would do first grade math teacher t-shirt, which is super narrow, and I would design for that. And so that's how I kind of grew how many listings I had, because, one design I would create into a template, and then I would create 10 different designs over the same design, just swapping out the words, swapping
Oh
out,
my gosh,
um,
brilliant.
yeah, like first grade, second grade, third grade. So I started to do that, and I just found all these different niches through studying kind of these little trends out of other stores. And that's how I got to, a high volume listing store so quickly, is because I was using the same design templates, just different niches, different narrow categories. And so I kind of branched out from there. But then, so the way I went from one sale to hundreds of sales, what I believe happened is when I got social media involved. And
Wow.
yeah, I saw some organic sales here or there. Like it was like small, spotty, it was like one organic sale one week. Next week it'd be two, and then another one sale the next week. And I was like, okay, like this is nice, but it's not a full-time thing. It's not, just in case my job, I get cut hours from work again, it's not going to be enough. So I went into some Facebook communities, and I asked all of the admins before I did anything. I just said, hey, I joined this community. I have this small business. Am I able to promote it and offer anyone in the community a 20% off discount? And a lot of the admins surprisingly said yes to me. However, I know now that I've kind of shared that idea on my YouTube. A lot of people have been emailing me or commenting and saying, hey, this worked when you did it, but now it's not really working anymore, because a lot of people are trying to do that now. But there are still admins that will say yes. But, you don't want to get blocked for spam if you are,
Yes.
listening to this podcast and looking to do that. So always ask for approval from the admin. But that's what I did. And once I posted that first, I posted in a few different Facebook groups. And when I started doing that, I started out of nowhere getting, not out of nowhere, but the posts went viral in those communities, and I started getting 20 to 30 sales a day for probably a few weeks. And I posted for those few weeks, and then I said, you know what? I'm just going to stop posting on these communities. And also, I kind of got busier with work hours. I started taking more overtime. I had more on-call hours at the hospital. So I kind of went hands off, and I was like, I'll just deal with the customer service, because I'm just not paying attention to the social media right now. And in after I stopped posting on social media, I was still getting 20 to 30 order days. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. I'm not even posting on social media. And then I looked into my Etsy statistics, and I saw that I was getting organic traffic just through my SEO, through the search,
Mhm.
through related. So I was just, it became an organic machine for my store. And um, I stopped really posting. I mean, unless I saw less sales, especially, July, June, those are really
Yes.
slow months. So I'd post in the Facebook communities then. I'd be like, okay, here's a new item I just released. Here's another coupon. And that would spike up my sales again just for a little bit. But yeah, that's how it kind of all ramped up to 15K plus months. So,
Heather, you were the queen of organic traffic.
oh, thank
I kind
you.
of want to crawl into your brain a little bit. You are like, from all of our conversations, you are so good at that. Okay, so one of the questions I see the most about print on demand on Etsy is about beginner expectations. And I hope, okay, my beloved listeners, Heather has already literally taught a course in the past 10 minutes. I literally can't believe how much, like, literally, I'm just like checking off in my mental list. I'm like, these are literally the things that I paid for a course to learn. And it does help to see it. Like, I think it makes sense to me because I've done it for so many years. And I'm just like, yep, that's the gold. That's the pot of gold right there. But
Yeah.
sometimes you have to see how someone does it. And that's really helpful, like the step by step. But how quickly do you think new shops can expect to see sales? Like, what do you think is reasonable? And what kinds of things can they do to troubleshoot if they're not seeing views and sales? Because I think social media is great. But like you said, we've got to now find something like probably Facebook groups are not going to work as well. What are you teaching folks now?
Yeah.
Sorry, that was like three questions in one. Let me know if you
Oh,
want me to
no.
circle back with that. You're getting pregnancy brain Lizzie in such a hardcore way.
So, as far as how long it takes to get those first initial sales, generally I say a few weeks to even a month to 2 months. And that's if you're just doing this all organically. I feel like even for me, when I began, I was like, okay, I posted a listing. It's out on this organic traffic machine that's supposedly Etsy. I should get a sale, right? If I post one listing. And I did not get that when I reopened my store. It took 4 to 5 weeks. And I was really, it's when you start getting discouraged, that's when you get the sale. So if anyone's there, it's going to happen. You just have to keep those listings up and let the organic traffic machine that Etsy is do its work. It will work eventually, but sometimes it takes longer for some people. And if you're not seeing that, going to, as far as what I'm teaching now, I suggest instead of Facebook communities, try Instagram, try TikTok. And there's a lot of ways to make posts, Instagram reels, through just image mockups or any of the images that you're posting on your listings. You can easily do that nowadays with the technology we have in softwares. So I feel like I might have missed one question.
No, I think I just made it sound like 17 questions. Have
Oh,
you
no.
done anything with Pinterest at all?
I used to play around with Pinterest. I had, last time I checked, I think I have a total of like 30,000 views on Pinterest, but I really, or Pinterest, sorry, I always say it wrong. That's another controversy, or at least I get comments. So I did use Pinterest for a little bit. But I didn't really stick to it. I think I found Facebook communities and it was working for me in the Facebook groups. And I was like, wow, like this is the secret sauce to social media because people are so passionate in the Facebook groups. And
Totally.
that's what I found. And then Instagram was my second source. So I actually opened up a Shopify store with print on demand. And I was getting a few sales a week on my Shopify store with just Instagram and just posting on Instagram. I'd post, a few times a week. And it was just the mock-up images I made for my print on demand Etsy listings that I'd post.
Wow.
Yeah. So Instagram's a great place too, if you're not feeling comfortable with going on Facebook. So.
Do you use hashtags? Do you recommend using hashtags to help
Yes.
index them? Okay.
Yeah.
I hear people have such mixed opinions about that now too. So I was just curious. You know what's so fun about all of this is that there are so many paths to success. Like have 10 other guests on the podcast and someone else is like, you have to be on Pinterest. It's built my entire business. And like someone else is like, I don't do any social media. It's all organic. You know what I mean? I love how there's so many different paths. So I think it's great. We've got to figure out what our own little secret sauce is.
Yeah.
What do you think are like the biggest mistakes that new print on demand shops tend to make?
I think one of the biggest mistakes is that people don't post the full package with print on demand. And what I mean by that is when they upload their design to, let's say, their print on demand provider's backend, they publish it to their Etsy store, and then they're just like, well, I have it up. I'm going to edit it tomorrow or the next day. And I think that's one big mistake I see a lot is people are like, oh, I could do when I do the print on demand business, I can do it in small increments. Like I can just do all the designs one day, upload them to print on demand backend, and then later I'll do the image mockups. I'll get the high quality images up. I'll edit the SEO tags. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes I've seen recently,
Interesting.
at least, just because of how Etsy pushes out your listings to potential customers. And the first day that you publish everything is when Etsy is already kind of calculating how well your listing will do in their system. So it will show it to multiple customers. And if you don't have those high quality mockup images up, if you don't have the SEO complete and the tags complete within, the first hour at least, that's kind of my goal at least
Yeah.
to do that all within the first hour, because if a customer sees it in another hour and they click into it, they add a favorite to it, or maybe they purchase it, then that shows Etsy, hey, this is a great listing. Let's boost it more in the algorithm. So that's at least something that I've noticed as one of the common mistakes.
That's
But
so good. I hadn't heard that. That's really,
uh,
really good.
yeah, so
Were there any others you want to throw out?
I'd say the second one, I guess, is just the broad versus narrow niche
Yeah.
ordeal right now. I think it's good to have a mix of broad and narrow, but I would not put all my eggs in one basket for broad niche category terms and saying like mom niche only, and maybe, baby shower niche, something like that. I feel like you need to get a little bit more narrow as far as the mom niche goes, maybe new mom or expecting mother, something like that. Instead of just mom t-shirt. So,
Absolutely. That's
yeah.
huge. This podcast is brought to you by my very own website, howtosellyourstuff.com, where I have created lots of free and paid tools to help you be successful with your new Etsy shop. As I've developed this business, I've really focused on thinking back to my early days of trying to figure Etsy out, and I brainstormed a list of the things that would have helped me make more sales earlier. And everything I'm creating over there is expressly to make sure that you can get there faster than I did. Two of my courses, Listings That Sell and Customer Service Templates, are perfect resources for that fledgling Etsy seller. Listings That Sell will teach you how to position your products for sales by setting up your listings with the best photos, keywords, and branding to attract your perfect customer. I'm showing you how research is your secret weapon for getting your product seen and sold. And I'm giving you my step-by-step process for how I personally research as a strategy in my own shop. Customer service is way more critical to sales than most shop owners realize. So, in my mini e-course, Customer Service Templates, I'm teaching you my exact customer service strategy and providing you with templates of my specific wording for over 20 different customer service scenarios, including some of the hardest ones. You don't have to go figure out what to say and how to say it. I've already done that for you. One of the main keys to being a successful business owner is working harder on yourself than anything else. So go grab these courses and get yourself on the fast track to your Etsy shop goals. I can't wait to watch you do it. Okay, it's actually kind of a perfect segue into this next thing I want to talk to you about, because I'm curious what your experience is here. Like, I think once you've got your initial listings up, and I'm a big advocate of, and gosh, you did this differently. Like today, I don't know if you've seen this today. If someone puts up, 20 listings in a day, a lot of times they're getting suspended for that. So we're having to kind of trickle them out more gradually. Like that consistency is what Etsy is looking for. Do you agree with that, by the way?
I do. I definitely agree that adding more listings consistently rather than just bulk uploading everything is really causing that Etsy flag to happen
Okay.
for all the new stores I've at least seen.
I love that
So,
we get to put our heads together on that. I'm like, what are
yeah.
you seeing? Because it just, I mean, when I launched, that was not a thing when my shop was launched. And I mean, it's been off now for about a year, but, well, I've been, trying to get pregnant and growing this baby, but, um, it seems like older shops that are still open are not being flagged in the same way, even if they continue with that behavior. It's the newer shops that are experiencing it. So it's so fun to have someone like you to be like, are you seeing this too? Because it's different from what I experienced.
Oh, yeah.
But what I was going to ask is kind of when you first start getting those first sales coming in, um, I personally think that's the time to put your foot on the gas, right? That's not the time to be like, okay, cool, I'm going to start getting sales. You need to kind of like leverage that momentum. There's something really special that happens in that period there. So I
Hmm.
was curious to ask you, how did I want to phrase this? What are some things that you can do that a new seller can do to start scaling their shop when they start hitting that? You kind of figure out, okay, I've kind of figured out this will work, this will sell. How can they scale from there so they kind of take advantage of that momentum period?
Yeah. I feel like one of the things is, first of all, honing in on the items that are selling. So let's say you get your first sale and it's on, we'll go to maybe Army Mom t-shirt that sells. Then it's like, oh, wow, Army Mom t-shirt sold. So how can you brainstorm other items in that specific niche and kind of narrow it down and, take that design that's really working and taking it to maybe instead of a t-shirt, a sweatshirt, maybe instead of a sweatshirt, a tank top. And then also taking instead of Army Mom, maybe Navy Mom. You can look up all the different sectors of different type of military, sectors
Yep.
you can look into and add that in front of the mom, and just kind of change it out, swap it out, and see what else sells. Because if that design's really working for that specific narrow niche, it's probably going to work for the other narrow niches. And that's kind of how I have leveraged my scaling ability, is just taking those things that work. Um, and just kind of going from there and scaling out that way. So, and I am so sorry. I think you had a second part of that question that I totally did
No,
not
I think you
remember.
just got mom brain again. From me. I think I just made it sound like more than one. You answered that perfectly. I just think that period there is an opportunity because what's happening is Etsy has clearly something you've created has drawn attention from the audience that Etsy put it in front of. The
Hmm.
more sales you get and the more things you create around that are only going to like add fuel to the fire. It's sort of like you got your fire, it's lit, it's not raging yet, and you throw some kindling on it. And so you want to leverage that time because it's just going to give you faster success. It doesn't mean that if you miss out on that period, you can't ever get there. Like listen to your story where you turned your shop off when it was brand new for months and months and still did just fine. Did more than fine is an understatement of the millennia.
Oh.
But there's just something special that you can leverage to get faster results. So I think that's a brilliant way to go about it.
Hmm.
Um, what about people who don't have design experience and know they're I think okay when I take a look at shops, a lot of times on TikTok I'll tell folks like you can send me your shop link and I'll send you a few pointers, and I'm not going into any kind of deep shop review. I'm just building community and loving on people because a lot of times they just don't even have the basics, and I'm looking at their designs and their photos and being like, this is never going to sell. How am I going to tell you this without breaking you into 1,000 people? I'm
Yeah.
looking at the designs and thinking this is never going to compete, and you're so far. So how can someone who kind of has a sense, gosh, my designs aren't going to be able to compete where I'm at now. Do you have any advice? Because I don't know what to tell someone other than those aren't going to sell. Go look at the bestsellers, and I don't know. But how could they improve? Or do you have strategies for that?
Yeah. I generally say to design items that you would want to buy. And I know sometimes it's not helpful if someone has like a really, abstract taste. So
Exactly.
it's probably not going to help those people, but generally, I always say go basic. Some of the most common mistakes I see with designing is people go way over complicated. They have multiple fonts, multiple colors in one design. And you go on Etsy and one of the top things is a dog mom t-shirt. I saw this like a year ago. One of like the best selling, types of listings or for t-shirts on Etsy was a shirt that said dog mom on it in like a handwriting font, and it was just on a t-shirt, and it was a bestseller. And I was like, that's
So
all you have to
simple.
do, and it's really just finding those more simple basic fonts, maybe a font that you like, that you're like, oh yeah, I'd wear a shirt with that on it. And just kind of seeing what stores are doing. It's all a learning process, and if you're not getting sales, it might be the design, and you might have to go back to work on a design. So yeah.
I my sister and I played with some print on demand stuff a few years ago when she was in a job where she had a lot of downtime, and we're not doing it now. But one thing that really helped, and we both have design experience, but sometimes you can still catch yourself making something really ugly.
Hmm.
And we made some things that we thought were going to be super cute. We ended up making some like really good ones, but we actually ordered samples. So we could be like a walking billboard. And we just like wanted to enjoy them. And when they
Hmm.
arrived, you could actually, I don't know, it kind of opened my eyes. And it wasn't just that the photo didn't properly represent the shirt. It was like, oh, that's not as cute as I thought it was. So
Hmm.
sometimes it can help if you're looking at something and you have maybe more abstract taste, or you don't know, like maybe order one
Yeah.
and see like, oh, do I love wearing this? Do I feel super cute? Do I get compliments when I wear it? Do people ask about it? I was really surprised at how much that helped, because I really thought, you know, with my experience, like my mock-ups were like a fair representation of, like, I don't know. So what do you tend to do that? Will you have them send you some examples you do? Oh, I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah. One of my first designs I designed, I ordered it and I got it in the mail, and I was like, oh, because the design placement, it was way too up on the collar. So it was like right here on the collar, and I was like, oh, that does not look right. And then I had a customer email me one of the designs that it was slightly to the right on the t-shirt. And
Oh,
for a moment, you have that moment of, oh, it's the print on demand company, they must have printed it incorrectly, misaligned. And then I looked at the design and I was like, oh my gosh, that was me. So it's just little things, it's all trial and error. It's building that experience, that confidence in what you do. Like I like to say, I know so much about Etsy because I made so many mistakes that
yeah.
now I teach like how to not make the mistakes I did. So yeah.
What about like figuring out what are going to be best selling designs? Because I mean, I know you and I are both like high integrity about this, and even though we use the best sellers and the ones that have tons in the cart and the ones that we know we're selling as inspiration, we're not like directly copying them, because I mean, how does that benefit anything? Like, and
Mhm.
B, that, well, you could get flagged, and B, it's just like, no, you need to use it as inspiration. So how do you guide folks to figure out how they can start, creating their own bestsellers without, again, getting super creative to the point where no one will buy it?
Yeah. Um, I'd say what I like to teach is just pulling kind of three different bestsellers in the same niche or category and kind of looking at their designs and kind of taking a little bit of each rather than copying one directly. So, what we saw recently was the retro designs are really in. And so maybe doing a retro font, maybe not the exact same font, but then you can look at a color palette of a different bestseller, and it's a really nice color palette. I've seen the retro colors are in again. So maybe,
Golly.
you kind of can play around with the colors with a different font that's really in. I think 2 years ago, and I think it's still a trend, is the leopard types of items too, where
It
it's like,
never seems to go away.
yeah.
It just never goes away.
Yeah. So that's another one. You could do the leopard print in some lettering if you'd like, in a popular lettering, the bison font. That's been around for a while now. The bolded bison is a big best-selling font that I've seen on a lot of t-shirts for print on demand. But doing like an overlay of the leopard print on that, you could easily just kind of mix and match inspiration rather than take directly from one person, because I've seen that with my store where I just recently, I feel so bad. so I'll contact sellers if they copy directly off of my designs. My designs aren't hard to make, but I've had several, 20 plus sellers copying my designs over the past 2 years. So I generally reach out to them first and say, hey, I'm fine with you creating this design. At least it's a different color. And, something just has to be different. I don't know what you can make different, but you just can't copy the same exact fonts,
Mhm.
because I put in work to make this design, and I didn't, this was one of the designs was one of them that I completely created by myself. I didn't pull inspiration. The one thing that I finally didn't, pull inspiration off of, I got copied. And so with that being said, it depends on the seller that you
Yeah.
are going off of, because they might still report you and you could still get flagged by Etsy. But for me personally, I'm fine if someone copies the exact same fonts I use. At least they change a color. At least they get a little bit more creative. And I think that's, acceptable, but it really depends. You have to be careful nowadays. So
That whole climate has completely changed, and we should actually let me jump to that question because I was going to do this at a different time, but I we have seen such an influx of trademark violations and shop suspensions. I There's never a week that goes by that someone's not reaching out to me like, I mean, and I understand why. As an Etsy the expert, they think I've got an inroad, but like you violate one of those things, there is nothing I can do, or you can
mhm.
like we are all our hands are tied. Prevention is where we need to go. Attack this from is don't get in trouble in the first place, but
Yeah.
I know a lot of our listeners have this particular question, and we've already talked about. I've already wondered some of the things we've talked about, like is Army Mom now trademarked? Like some of these things,
Yep.
I'm wondering. Like some of the quotes, the phrases we've talked about. But
Mhm.
what can you share? Because I would never put you on the spot for legal advice or anything like that. Nothing in this podcast is legal advice. It's all just for educational purposes. But what
Mhm.
can you share to help our new or soon to be shop owners avoid getting in trouble or shut down?
Yeah, it's definitely having a process and habits in place when you are designing and creating a new item. Even if you're not in the print on demand world and you're handmade, you still need to make sure, that everything is okay to use in your SEO. Especially, a lot of people are
Yeah.
surprised when a lot of us Etsy coaches say, hey, if you put Ghostbusters in your title or tags, you're going to get taken down. Or Starbucks, if you're in the coffee lover niche, it's going to get taken down. And one of the best ways to prevent that is uspto.gov. There's a TESS trademark system. You can write in the word. Sometimes there's education that you need to do to kind of learn how to use it, but there's plenty of free videos on
Yeah.
YouTube. There's the TESS system that helps you. And also, you can also just type in the word that you're suspicious of in Google and put, trademark after it. Sometimes it might not be valid though. But and if you're really, really concerned, I'd hate to suggest this because I know it's expensive, but even maybe uh, considering legal advice, legal consult, just on a word that you're really confused about. So,
Yeah, I mean it's become really tricky because also sometimes it will change. Um, Something may not be trademarked this year, and it might become one of your best sellers, but next year someone's paid for the trademark, and so you do have to create a system in place. I don't think it should totally freeze you in your tracks. I think it's like what needs to become obvious that isn't, and it shocks me, is that any name, brand, or character
mm-hmm.
is trademarked. You can't do Winnie the Pooh. I learned the hard way years ago. You can't do Gilmore Girls. You can't do Mickey Mouse or and everyone will come back to me and say, "But Lizzie, there are so many sellers that have shops that are selling those things and they're not getting shut down." And I'm just like, "You know what? They were there before the bots were there." But their day is
Mm-hmm.
coming. And here's the thing, don't be jealous of them because what could happen is they could get sued for all of the sales they've had to date and
Yep.
be held legally responsible for that. So don't think that they're in the clear just because they haven't been shut down. You're actually better off getting shut down than getting sued because you've made hundreds of thousands of dollars from a trademarked item.
Yeah, yeah. I think this was the funniest comment I ever got on a YouTube video, but someone said, "You don't mess with the mouse," and I just got a really good kick out of that. And I repeat it to this day because I say it.
Trademark that.
Yeah, I'm like, don't mess with the mouse because Mickey Mouse will, they will come for your store and take, a lawsuit is much more expensive than the startup costs of a print on demand business. So it's like you
Yes.
said, you rather would want to be shut down at that point. So
1,000,000%. Stay away from Friends. Stay away from any TV show, any character, all of that. And then
mhm.
I was really surprised, like really simple things. I always say I always describe myself as kind of a campy, down to earth person, and so I love anything that says happy camper, and that
Mhm.
happens to be trademarked.
Yeah.
So you just have to be careful. And you guys, what I'll do? Let me make a little note. I will link my little. There's going to be more. I can't do two things at a time. There's going to be more detailed explanations that you can find on YouTube and everything. But I have a TikTok showing a really quick tutorial of USPTO.gov and how to just how to use it real fast. Because sometimes that helps me when I can just get a little snapshot. I don't have to figure it all out. I will link that video in the show notes for you guys so you can peek at it. Is there any other resource you're thinking of, Heather, that I should link for that?
It's just
Just a quick little.
uspto.gov.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. So, yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I'll include that just because we have spent a lot of time on it. Okay. So we actually kind of love how this has worked out. We have to talk about your YouTube channel because it's epic. It's so good. Your content is so good.
Thank you.
There's a ton of amazing advice over there. So you guys seriously check it out. And it's let me check my notes here. It's HeatherStudio on YouTube, and I'll link that as well, of course. Um, but okay, so I obviously binged it, and before we started hanging out, and one of your most popular videos was the most profitable niches of t-shirts. And so I'm
Mhm.
wondering if we could be special for just a minute here on the How to Sell Your Stuff on Etsy podcast and
Yeah.
ask you for a little sneak peek. Like, can you tell us um, some of the top niches that we could be exploring for t-shirt designs right now?
Yeah, I think that there is the family types of niche, like right now, of course, with the holidays in Christmas, family vacation. I feel like those always really work, but even
Cute.
family vacation outside of Christmas and different group types of T-shirts. I've seen those really sell well, but if if we're talking profit wise, I think those are the best as far as T-shirts go because you're getting those bulk orders. But
Yes.
another place that a lot of people don't think about is the kids teams and kind of the sports
Oh my
kids
gosh.
teams. Yeah, except for as we were talking about trademarks, you want to make sure that you're not using any trademark mascots or anything like that. Um, but then again, we're kind of looking at the bulk order types of items. And then occupational niche, career focused niches, I'd say those are always great because again, you're getting the bulk orders for departments and
Yeah.
maybe teachers. Maybe once I had a whole elementary school reach out to me about, hey, can we get an art teacher t-shirt? Can we get a music teacher t-shirt, math teacher? So it was really fun, making all of those for that whole group. And I kept the listings up and those ended up getting
Yes.
sales too. So that was really cool. Yeah.
I'm so excited that happened for you too. Some of my best sellers were things that someone reached out and asked for sort of
Yeah.
in a custom way. And then, but
Mhm.
it was so cute and I knew other people would like it. And so when I listed it, it became like a bread and butter listing. So I think
Yeah.
that's brilliant. Oh my gosh. And I love the bulk order concept. I love that you could have one t-shirt design, but someone buys it for their whole family for their
Mhm.
cruise. And you can, I mean, that was definitely not something I experienced in my niche, like hand painting signs. They weren't ordering 20 at a time. And
Yeah.
PS, if they did, I was mad because I had to paint them all then.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you got the brilliance you guys have with print on demand.
Yeah.
Okay. So, gosh, yeah, you have given us so much value, Heather. What are your top 3 tips for people who want to start selling? And they're like listening to this, they're kind of getting jazzed, which happens every time. I'm going to get the really cute emails from folks. What are just some 3 basic tips that you'd give, kind of really beginner encouragement?
Yeah. I would say to definitely I feel like we did talk about this earlier, so I'm kind of pulling it back to
No, it's good.
earlier.
Do it again.
But
Yeah.
number one is to go narrow, not broad, for your niches, especially really any niche. I feel like people are very specific in what they want now. And, when you go on Google, if you think of just when you're trying to search up a t-shirt for yourself and you get all these different Google search results, and it's almost annoying now because everyone's trying to rank for the same SEO, but it's not the correct term that you're searching as a customer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the trajectory that we're going in for at least Etsy, as I've seen, and SEO as it stands, is people are very specific in what they want. And if you're ranking for that specific term and it's the correct item that the customer seeks, that's kind of the mindset to get into starting into any business with Etsy, even if you're handmade, even if you're with print on demand. My second tip is to just be simple with the designs when you're starting out. You don't have to do any complicated things. You don't have to, draw a dragon yourself and put it on a t-shirt. You can just go really basic, really simple. And the third tip I have is just to price competitively, but you don't
Yes.
have to be the lowest on the search. I think what we're seeing right now is what I like to say the clickbait listings, which are the listings that are showing, a t-shirt for $7.99. The customer clicks into the listing and they choose the t-shirt size and color they want, and they see it's $20. And I think that's what's frustrating for the customer, but also the seller. So that's something that I suggest is, a Bella and Canvas 3001 t-shirt is one of the most commonly used t-shirts for print on demand, along with the Gildan. I believe it's 5,000. And with those t-shirts, you can still get a really nice profit of around $7 plus per t-shirt, selling it at $20. So that's why you kind of want to stay in the mid range if you're starting out. But I guess those are my three quick tips. So
I think those are perfect. I think there's such a great launching pad from those. But also, I mean, you have some, in addition to your YouTube channel, you have some spectacular print on demand resources. It was one of the reasons I wanted to have you. I love offering choices. And people are always wanting to learn more about print on demand. So please tell us about what you offer on your website, like some of your coaching, your courses, that kind of thing. Like what more do you have available if people want to go deeper with you?
yeah, so right now I'm running a 90-minute training where I go over how to earn your first 10K with Etsy and print on demand. I also have a Etsy and print on demand crash course. Both of these types of trainings are free, but if you do want to get started with Etsy and print on demand today and you want those step-by-step tutorials, I have it all in a completely free course on my website, but also I have the how to earn your first 10K with Etsy and print on demand to start with as well. So
Okay, and we will. I have all of those here that will be linked in the show notes for you guys, so you can grab them easily, and they'll be labeled so you can figure out which one you want to go to. Are you? So, do you show them how to? Where can they find it? I get this question a lot, so I'm going to ask you.
yeah,
Does one of your things that you offer show how to like connect Printify or Printful to your Etsy shop?
yes.
Kind of the hand
So
holding? Yeah. Which resource
um,
would that be?
the Etsy print on demand, or what am I saying? The Etsy and print on demand crash course. That is the one that goes A
Okay.
to Z on how to integrate, how to set up like manual push versus automatic push. I go over it all in detail. I go over like print on demand pricing and how you get a profit with print on demand. I give real life examples of my own profit margins and things like that. So it's all kind of laid out in that course for anyone who's a beginner. So
Okay, so step by step. Perfect. That's what people are always asking for, and I love that you created that. And then one of your offerings is for more advanced, right? Showing more into some of the which one would that be?
yes. So I have a print on demand academy, which is what I call my master course for people who have kind of dipped their toes into the water of print on demand and they really want to scale it. And they know, they're really into print on demand and this is for them. I generally say to take the 90-minute training first and the Etsy and print on demand crash course to make sure that this is the path they want to go down. before
Yes.
they go into the master course. But the master course is essentially my strategies on how to scale, how to do the marketing, the organic marketing with Instagram and Facebook, how to find those Facebook groups, how to post consistently on Instagram, and you don't have to show your face. And that's what's really nice about, all that is Etsy and doing the print on demand business. So
Okay. And if you guys go through one of those free ones, you'll absolutely she'll let you know how to access the master course too.
mhm.
So there'll be plenty of ways to be able to find that. That's awesome. Okay. So where are the best places for our listeners to follow you, keep in touch, just be in your world of what you're creating?
Yeah. So Heather Studio on YouTube is the first place to find me. I have a lot of tutorials on there. I have, also set up tutorials on how to do your first design and how to place those designs on mockups, how to do SEO. I have that all there as well. But I do also have my own website. It's www.heatherxstudio.com. That's where you can find a lot of my other digital products that can support you in your print on demand business journey as well. So,
Okay. We will have all of the links, all of the information so you guys can find her. I think if you were in the print on demand space, she is just another phenomenal resource. And Heather, thank you for your generosity today. You've shared so much value. I think it's going to fire some people up. I think, and it's like the end of the year, right? We're thinking about New Year's, we're starting to think about New Year's resolutions. We're getting into that mindset of what's next. What do we want to accomplish? So I don't know. I think it's good stuff. Thank you so much for spending the time with me.
yeah, thanks for having me on your podcast.
We'll have to keep in touch and see what we can do in the future, because I know we're only going to get more and more questions, and I think the print on demand space is only going to get more exciting. I mean, I know everyone wants to say like, oh, it's too saturated, but it's really not. And I think that more and more products and opportunities are going to open up. So please keep
Mhm.
me in your Rolodex.
Yeah, definitely. I think one surprising fact or estimation I saw recently is that right now, or in 2021, print on demand, the industry was at 4.9 billion, and it's projected to grow to 30 billion by 2030. So,
Oh,
a lot of people say it's saturated, but I think being in it right now is really great for the years to come. So,
only more and more products we're going to see. We're starting to see like bucket hats and things like that, but we're going to get more. It's going to
mhm.
become so much more than just t-shirts and sweatshirts and all of that. I think it's very exciting. So again, thank you. And you guys, thanks for being with us today. I hope this was interesting and valuable, and I treasure every moment you spend with me. So until next time, go make something awesome. Thanks, Heather. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm just popping on the end here today with a little after note to today's episode, which I hope you loved. Heather is awesome. Her YouTube is phenomenal. Her resources are incredible. She's just a really quality person. I've so enjoyed getting to know her. But she and I recorded this episode back in early fall when I was accumulating all of my maternity leave content. So now it's December. I've got a wonderful, growing 2-month-old baby boy that I am snuggling every chance I get, and I'm putting this together to go live. And Heather is now bringing out a whole new course and webinar. So the resources that she mentioned are on pause. If you're listening to this, like, at the end of December, her resources are on pause, and she's launching the new ones in the beginning of the year. So around the first week of January, there is going to be a whole new webinar and course available for you guys that will be top notch. So kind of scratch what she said the resources were. And what you can do is you can go down into the show notes if you are excited about Heather's resources, which I suspect you are because I know how much you guys love print on demand. Jump on the wait list, and you will then get informed when all of these new free and paid resources for print on demand get released. And in the meantime, like, make sure you do that so that we can keep in touch with you and let you know what's coming out and when it's available, and any like goodies that are going to be happening during that launch period. And then go binge her YouTube channel, where you're going to just get so much between now and then. So much value. You're going to get to know her voice, her style, and then you'll really know if her free and paid resources above that are going to be for you. So, thank you so much for being understanding. We had no idea back in like August or September when we recorded this that everything is going to change, but that's what happens when you're planning for a maternity leave. So I love you guys. I'm excited to reconnect with you with a bit of a catch-up episode as we get ready for January. The next episode that comes out, we'll talk about the trends for 2023 and what you can be looking to do to really grow. So I'm so excited for a new year with you. Thanks for all the love and support during my pregnancy and my maternity leave. And I can't wait to be with you again soon. Love you guys. Have a great week. And that's a wrap on this episode of How to Sell Your Stuff on Etsy. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're looking for more resources, head on over to howtosellyourstuff.com, where you'll find podcast show notes, all the links from today's episode, the blog, courses, coaching, and more. If this episode was helpful to you, awesome. The greatest compliment I can receive from you is a rate, review, and subscribe on this podcast. Not only will it allow us to connect again on a future episode, it lets me know I'm providing you with value and helps other people find this content more easily. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for your support. Have a great day and see you next time.